Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On July the 28th, the night of the 27th and 28th, the rain began to come, and my family and I, we went out on the porch of the house and began to watch the rain, and we knew that things were going to be bad across our region, and I was getting phone calls. Our electric was out. We were standing out there in the dark, and I text Chief Advisor, Governor's Advisor, Rocky Atkins at 2:25 that morning, and I just text, when you get time, call me tomorrow or whatever. And in 5 minutes, Rocky Atkins called me on the cell phone and asked me what was going on, and I began to tell him that we were getting hit very hard and it was going to be bad. And we talked about things that we could start doing, and I just want to say thanks to Rocky Atkins for being available at all hours of the night the last month, and night and day. When I left my holler that next morning, I couldn't get out of my road until 9:30 the next morning, and then had to take a tractor and clean out the road and all that. What I saw was, people's houses that have lived in the same place for 60 and 70 years, their houses wasn't damaged, they were gone. And churches, schools, lives that were lost. A lady was killed, 84 years old, about 2 miles from my house in Kenevie Holler. And man, I didn't know what to do. I was lost. And to see people standing beside the road and just looking at what used to be their homes that were gone. There's been a lot of people that's come to the aid of East Kentucky, and I just want to stand and say thanks to, from the top, Governor Beshear and his cabinet, Kentucky Emergency Management Director Jeremy Slinker, the Kentucky National Guard, Kentucky State Police, Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, who did all the rescue efforts. And it went from, rescuing people off the top of their houses. I talked to one fella, he's 23 years old, that him and his mom were sitting on the top of the roof of their house, and water all the way around them, and the helicopter rescued them from that. I talked to a fella that went out to get a horse out of the barn, and he and his wife and son, and when they went out to get in the barn, a wave of water came and slammed his truck and trailer into the barn and locked them in the barn. So they went up to the barn loft, and a few minutes later, another wave of water came, and there's a double-wide trailer come at the barn and knocked the barn over and knocked him out one side. And he said, I got tangled up in some wire, some fencing. And he said, I kept struggling and finally was able to get out and slammed up against the wall of another house, and he climbed out. His wife and son, his wife pushed their son out, and he looked like somebody took a baseball bat and beat him to death from the top of his head to his legs. And he said, but I can't find my wife. And early of a morning, him, his son, and some of their other family would leave the shelter, and they'd go down and they'd try to find his wife. And they found her 3 days later, and she was killed. 94-year-old woman brought into the shelter barefooted, wet clothes on. They'd rescued with a helicopter. A set of 3-month-old twin boys, Tyrone and Jerome, saved by the helicopter. And the people that's come to help us, that put their lives on the line to help those in need, is just amazing. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Commissioner and Rich Storm and Eric Gibson, the head of their law enforcement, their men went above and beyond. The state police did, all first responders did. All of our volunteer fire departments from other regions came and helped. food and water and clothes and supplies from all over the country has come into East Kentucky. It actually restored my faith in humanity the last month. Because so many times we look at the negative and that's all we hear is the negative. But I'm thankful that there are still people who care about each other. I got a phone call from a lady in Wyoming that said, you know, all I've seen on the floods down there in East Kentucky is it's people helping people. And I told her that's the way it was in East Kentucky and in the state of Kentucky, that we help each other and we're there for each other. We got a lot of rebuilding to do, not just material things, but the lives and the minds of young people who lost their family members, who now when it thunders or lightning flashes, they're scared to death. There's a lot of help that needs to be got to the kids and the families of our region, and the work of the church is even more important today than it ever has been. The work of the church to get outside the walls of the church and go out to help those that are hurting. It's a great need for that today. I'm thankful that I live in East Kentucky. There's not a better place, in my opinion, in the world to live than East Kentucky. Sure, we got our problems. But we'll be all right because we're a strong people. And we'll fight, we'll build back. Our schools will open up again. And we'll keep clawing and scratching till we get what we need. All the representatives from East Kentucky, the legislators from East Kentucky, all of you have worked hard since that night. All of you have. All of us. It didn't matter who we were, what party we were. We worked together. And I'm thankful to serve in the House of Representatives and be part of that effort. I support this legislation. There's been some things said that we didn't provide any housing, and that's not true. This bill does provide money for intermediate housing. I won't rehash what the gentleman from McGoffin has said, but we're getting the help that we need right now. We'll be in need of other things later. But right now, I'd ask you just to pray for us. Support us, and you have. I appreciate those that have come from other districts, and I can't remember what counties you're from. I don't want to get shut down for calling your name out. So you know who you are. You've come down there and helped shovel mud and brought excavators and skid steer loaders, and you've done work for people, and I appreciate that. I support this bill, and I'm thankful to be able to represent the 84th District of Perry, Breathitt, and Owsley. We have 2,800 people in my district that are without a house. 2,800. And so I'll be thankful for these trailers that are coming to try to meet that immediate need and then try to build back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.